Africa's absence in the permanent member states of the United Nations has lingered, being a stake of controversy for quite a long time. Prominent member states of the African Union, such as Ethiopia and Kenya, are vehemently initiating in the request of the African Union to have a permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council. African Union's membership in the G20 countries since last 2023 is cited as one of the biggest achievements for Africa's voices to be counted in the global platform. The first G20 summit in African continent glamorously shows Africa's pivotal role like that of the global north. The prominent South African political analyst Oliver Dixon, in his exclusive interview with Pulse of Africa, highlighted that the reinforcement of multicultural institutions in Africa would inevitably render Africa to secure significant leverage within the member state.
We need to strengthen our own multilateral bodies. The African Union needs to become a much more stronger voice on the continent and in shaping what the African story is. I think it's seen as a by-the-way organization that's sitting on the side of African politics, not at the center of African politics. And so I think we need to focus on strengthening our own multilateral institutions so that we can solve those crises ourselves. And I think in that instance, the world will have to take us a lot more serious once we're able to solve our own problems, determinant based on what we want, based on what we have.
The analyst further added that the sense of enormous inequalities within South Africa and other parts of Africa should be given the priority by African Union member states for Africa's preeminent contribution as part of the G20 member states.
Impediments of the world is inequality. And I think just to maybe focus on South Africa for a little bit, we're one of the most unequal countries in the world. And I want to define inequality so that we can know what we're talking about. Inequality is the distance between the rich and the poor. And in South Africa, that distance is incredibly wide. And so that reflects where the global south is. It finds itself in a place where the global south have to fight for vaccines, for equitable access to resources. And the distance between the global south and the global north is one that keeps growing in ways that isn't particularly healthy, right? I mean, think about security crises across the continent. It's seemingly getting worse and worse and worse, despite the fact that a lot more of us are democratizing. Sudan is a good example of a country that's been forgotten by the world. And I think when we talk about inequality and the security crisis in the continent, centering the African voice and the global south voice means that we have to talk about countries that are going through really tough time, like Sudan. And I think South Africa has done a relatively good job of it. Do I think that it could have been done better? I certainly think so. I think the Sherpas could have directed the conversation from the start of the presidency.
The political analyst praised South Africa for hosting the G20 summit for the first time in the continent, hoping that African Union's membership in the G20 member states would positively lift up the continent's voices, further restructuring its position in the global platform.